Hello, Vault Dwellers, and welcome back to another cooking Fallout style video. Today I'm doing broccoli and mushroom casserole from the Fallout Cookbook. Right now I've got 2 heads of broccoli cut in half, and I'm steaming it for about 10 minutes, so hopefully that doesn't steam up the camera. Let me set my timer. I've got my oven preheating to 425. And let me raise this up a little bit so you can see the other pan. Sorry for the jerky motion there. There we go. In this pan, I'm going to melt 3 tablespoons of butter. Kind of spread all over my kitchen trying to get this one to work. I just finished taking the cheesecake from our other video out of the oven, and it is chilling in the refrigerator, so hopefully we'll get that a little bit later. While that's melting, let me bring over, I've got a sorry again for the lighting. Yeah, I shouldn't have probably chose white dishes, but what can you do? I have 1 medium onion chopped up, and we're going to add that into the butter once it melts, and saute that up. So let me get this started. My butter's frozen. I keep it in my freezer so that it stays fresh, and it doesn't normally take that long. Once the pan heats up, it melts down pretty quickly. This dish is really, really good. I did it with the Salisbury steak dinner. I just didn't show off how I cooked it. And a lot of you guys have asked me to make this one next. And my son enjoyed this one, so I thought, well, I will do this as a side dish for his birthday dinner. And get it filmed up for you guys. So have to forgive me, I'm a little discombobulated today trying to get 2 videos done, 2 cooking videos done. I normally only focus on 1 at a time because it's much easier that way. Alright, as our butter starts to melt down, it will incorporate in here. So let me go ahead and get our onions started so they can start turning translucent. Our pan could probably have been a little bit hotter, but I am under a little bit of a time constraint as it is almost time for my daughter to come home from work. So trying to get all this done in the middle of everything else I need to do today. There we go. And I will keep that up on high for right now, and then I will drop that down. This is probably going to take a good 2-3 minutes for these to do, to turn translucent and soften up. So I'm going to let those go and start bringing over the other ingredients that are going in this as well. And you want these to just barely start turning translucent. You don't want them to brown. Whoops. So keep a close eye on them, but you know, if you're worried, turn your heat down if you're going to walk away from your stove for too long. I would turn that overhead light off so you guys could see a little bit better, but then it makes it so dark in here, I don't think you guys will be able to see at all. So, half a dozen of one, a pint and a half of another, I guess. So, alright, let me turn my heat down a little bit. And these are about where I want them to start being. I'm going to dump in now. The recipe calls for 10 shiitake mushrooms and 10 white button mushrooms, but my local Asian store was out of the fresh shiitakes, and I'm not a big fan of the dried ones. So I chose to go with 20 of the button mushrooms. We like the button mushrooms. We like all mushrooms, really, but buttons are kind of one of our favorites. So I'm going to go ahead and dump all those in. And yeah, I know it looks like an alarming amount, but mushrooms are full of water, and these are going to cook down to next to nothing by the time we're done. So these are going to go for about 10 minutes to get totally cooked down. And as soon as our 10 minutes is up for the steamed broccoli, I will pull that out and get it chopped up to go in here as well. So this dish is all about doing things in layers. It comes together fairly quickly once you get everything chopped up. I kind of prefer to have everything chopped and done, they call your mise en place. Just because then I can basically just throw everything in the pot and go. And that's whether I'm cooking out of the Fallout Cookbook for you guys, or what I do in my daily life when I'm cooking a meal. It is so much easier to have all your ingredients that you know you're going to be sauteing pre-prepped and ready to go. That way when it's time to add them in, you have them, and you're not sitting there trying to, you know, be halfway done through your mushrooms when you're adding them in, and then they're not going to cook evenly and properly. And, you know, you don't need to stand here and stir this. It will, as you can see, it's already starting to shrink down. And we're just going to let those go for a little bit longer, if I can keep them in the pan. And our broccoli is almost ready to come out. About 2 more minutes on it. So I will bring you guys back when I'm ready to get the broccoli out. Okay, our broccoli is done, and let me turn off this burner, and I'm going to steam you guys up. Sorry about that. Let me get that out of your way, and I'm going to transfer that over to my cutting board. Let me move my stuff around. I'm used to working on my nice big island where I have plenty of room. And let me, that's really, really toasty. Start pulling these out while our mushrooms and onions are cooking down. And you just want to kind of give the broccoli a rough chop. Let me move you guys a little bit closer, maybe. See if that'll help. Sorry. See if that, without catching you guys on fire, because my burner is still hot. There we go. Do this without burning my fingers too badly. And you're just going to give the broccoli a rough chop. It's all going to be mixed in with everything else. The majority of the stems I did cut off, and I will probably either dehydrate those and turn them into a powder, or I will turn them into like a broccoli coleslaw. Whatever I'm feeling in the next couple of days here. Ouch. You could let this cool a little bit, but honestly, if you either use a fork or just work with it quickly, you're not going to be touching it that long. And this does not need to be in very small bites. This is going to just roughly chopped. The stems are the hottest part of them. So if you can get past that, it's not too bad. Pull these last ones out here. Maybe they'll cool down by the time I get to the end. Yikes. And I've worked with hot food for so long that sometimes I think my fingertips just don't feel the heat that much anymore. So while I'm getting up the last of the broccoli, that's been almost 10 minutes on the mushrooms. So I'm going to add in 4 cloves of chopped garlic. You can either use jarred or you can use fresh. I choose to use fresh. My family uses a lot of garlic, so I always have fresh bulbs on hand. Alright, and then we're going to let this go probably about a minute, maybe 2 at the most, just enough for the garlic to start softening up and lending its aroma. We don't want to let our garlic go too long because it has a tendency to burn. And even though there is a lot of moisture in the bottom of the pan from the mushrooms, it could still potentially burn if you're not careful. So you don't want to let that cook for too long. Turn my heat back up here. And I will dump out the last little bits. There we go. And now I can have my counter back a little bit. Once the garlic has softened up, we are going to add a little bit of flour to this mixture to form not quite a roux, but a roux. Because we have the butter in there, that's going to be our fat component, but most of our butter has been absorbed up into the onions and the mushrooms by now. So it's not a typical roux where you're putting your fat and butter, or your fat right into your pan and then putting the flour directly on top of it. It's more you're going to coat the vegetables with the flour and allow that to cook out a little bit before you continue on adding any liquids. And it's still going to form a gravy-ish type consistency once we add our milk into it. Alright, so we've got that going. Let me get my flour, and we're going to need somewhere here 2 tablespoons of flour. Move my, kind of like to make an even layer of my vegetables before I sprinkle flour right on top of them. That way it kind of goes a little even gets evenly dispersed, I guess I should say. There we go. And this is a 2 tablespoon measure, so, and then I just kind of gently sprinkle it over, trying not to get too much in one spot. And now we're going to stir this in and let this cook down just a little, just to get rid of that raw flour taste. And the flour is going to absorb any liquid that was left in there from the mushrooms. Now, if you're not careful at this step, your mushroom, or your vegetables, mushrooms, onions, are going to get kind of gummy. So you want to keep moving this around, but still allowing the flour to cook out or cook down. And this only takes probably about a minute, if that, 45 seconds at the most, I guess I would say. You'll kind of know. The more you do this, the more you know. Just by the sight of what you're cooking. A lot of cooking is sight and smell over technique. You know, I mean, you have to have that technique there, but if you can't recognize what that technique is supposed to be doing for you, then you'll end up with failures. But if you're just, you know, patient and loving with your food and put time and effort into it, it will turn out amazing every time. Alright, so now I'm going to add in 1 cup of coconut milk. And you want to stir this in really well. You want that flour to get into the milk too, and you want the milk to kind of separate your pieces, because the flour has gummed it up a little, and that's going to loosen it up. Now we also are going to need a 1/2 cup of vegetable broth, and if I could see here, somewhere on there. That's a 1/2 cup of vegetable broth. And we'll just stir this in too. And we're going to let this cook for just a little bit, not very long. It smells really good already. So, and I know it tastes good because we've had it before. So I hope you guys enjoy this one. I hope you guys try this one out. I am going to also add in, if I can find it, I know I did it somewhere here. Oh, there we go. I have 2 teaspoons of basil and 1 teaspoon of thyme that I'm going to add in. And I'm going to give that a good stir in. And this will allow those dried herbs to kind of bloom and blossom. I also need to grab a little bit of pepper. Salt and pepper to taste. I'm going to be adding cheese into this, so I am going to wait to salt it until after the cheese goes in, because the cheese we're using Fontina cheese. It is a little bit on the saltier side, so I don't like to add too much salt in before I get all the components in with this dish. Alright, let me make sure we're up to where we need to be. Alright, now we can go ahead, and at this point we can add in our broccoli. can do this without making a mess. And let me, ouch, turn that down. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off because this part of the cooking is done. And again, that was 2 heads of broccoli. Alrighty. Let me get our cheese. Let me get this out of my way. And I will bring over the Fontina cheese that I grated. I'm using 1 cup of Fontina cheese. That gets stirred right in. It may have a rind on it. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And all you got to do is remove that. And then just grate it like you would a normal cheese. Give this a good stir until it looks well incorporated. Oh no, I think I canceled my oven. And make sure you have your oven turned back on. I just took my chicken out of it and I must have hit cancel instead of stop. Yeah, I did. That's okay. The oven's only been off for about 5 minutes, so no harm done. Alright, that looks pretty good. Now at this point, let me grab my casserole dish, or my baking dish, I should say. This is a 9 by 13 inch baking dish, and we're just going to transfer this over into it and then throw this in the oven after I top it with a little bit more cheese, if I can get this in the pot. Sometimes this is easier said than done. There we go. And this just goes right down. Just kind of smooth it out a little bit. And then I'm going to top this with about a cup of mozzarella. Normally I prefer to shred my own mozzarella, but I did not have time to do that today. So I'm cheapening out and using the pre-shredded stuff. And about a cup on, just sprinkle it over the top of it. That looks good. And we are going to put this in the oven for 18 minutes until the top kind of turns bubbly and brown. And I will see you when that happens. And I forgot one important step. This also gets rice. So I need about a half a cup of rice, so I'm going to have to get more cheese out. This is just going to be an extra cheesy one. You know, sometimes these things happen and you just kind of improvise. So what I'm going to do, that's about a cup and a half of rice there. I'm just going to give this a, ouch, that was hot. I had already got it in the oven. I will give this a quick stir in. I will grab some more mozzarella out of the refrigerator. And this will still taste amazing. probably would have been just as good without the rice. But this kind of helps bulk up the meal and stretch it out if you're serving it for a large family or for a get-together. And if you're serving this for a get-together, you are going to be the hit of the party, because this stuff is really, really, really good. Alright, that looks good now. Let me top it with a little bit more cheese. Probably won't go quite as heavy on the cheese just because I've got so much in there. But you know, cheese is never a bad thing. Alright, there we go. Now let me get this back in the oven one more time, and we will set the timer for 18 minutes. And I will see you guys when it's done, without having to add anything else to it this time. Alright guys, it's been about 18-20 minutes, and this is out of the oven. It looks really good. It smells really good. Let me get it plated up for you guys so you can see what it looks like once it's on a plate. It's screaming hot. Still bubbling. I probably could have let this set for a little bit. And if I didn't have to run and go pick my daughter up from work, I probably would have done that. Let it set for a good 10 minutes maybe on the counter. Just to let everything come together and let it form up. Let me get the plate down here for you guys, and that's what it looks like. I'm serving it alongside a quick chicken cordon bleu today. It's what my son requested for his birthday. And this is the broccoli mushroom casserole out of the Fallout cookbook. Hope you guys have enjoyed. If you like these videos, hit that like button. Subscribe if you're new. We are almost at 200 subs. We're only a few away, and I am very excited about that. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you guys think I might need to improve on these. And there will definitely be more of them in the future. So thank you for joining me. I've been Vault Girl, and I hope I see you in the next one.